Crunchbang is a fantastic distro, and it's immediately out of the box. And I know that's a bit of a cliche when it comes to Linux distributions now, and there's many people who criticise that comment by saying, well, that's what all Linux advocates say about all distros. Well, it's certainly not what I've said, and I'm the first to mention when there's a problem. But
that's what some people say about Windows as well.
Yeah, I mean, Crunchbang was straight out of the box. It helps by the fact that the machine I was installing it on was an Acer, and I've long said that I think Acer are probably the best machines for Linux in my experience because they've never given me an ounce of trouble.
Can you imagine if Windows was a distro and it had flavors which are how it's delivered by the OEMs? Can you imagine what reviews would have of Windows? Basically, they'll say, well, this distro is absolutely terrible. It comes with this Norton neckwear. It comes with no Office suite. It comes with this crappy, editor. It comes with no plugins of sorts, and what else? It doesn't even support your printer out of the box. You have to get all kinds of CDs and stuff to get things to work sometime. And I mean, as a distro, it would be very uncompelling. And people don't realize how much they get spoiled by distros.
This is a big injustice in the world, because if Windows was to compete fairly, or how I interpret fairly, and not be stuffed on the machine automatically when you go into your Comet or your Currys or whatever and buy your new computer, if it was to compete fairly in the marketplace with the current level of amount of distributions we have now, it wouldn't even rate in a distro watch top 100, I don't think, because people are getting this type of functionality that you see Microsoft making claims of their own operating system. They're getting this type of functionality for free without fuss. And
distro watch would have to have some kind of a disclaimer somewhere at the bottom. Be careful, this distro may be very likely to receive all kinds of bad software on it. Which is aka viruses, which only affects this distro. It's very specific to this distro called Windows.
The tragic thing about it is, and I'm sure everybody listening to this, if they're not Windows users and have moved to Linux or maybe been Linux for a long time, you speak to Windows users who've been infected with a whole host of different pieces of malicious software, and it seems to be the general mindset of the Windows user, oh, well, this is to be expected, it's part of the course. And they seem to put up with...
It's my fault.
Yeah, they put up with horrendous computers that Linux users wouldn't dream of running because they think it's all normal, and it's like Roy says, it's their fault, or it's what happens to computers as they get older. They get slower because they get filled with memories and like human beings, and they slow down. And it doesn't have to be that way, but it's getting out of the mindset, and this is why I think it's been a very difficult battle for Linux, because we're fighting an environment whereby people aren't getting a choice of what comes on their machine when they purchase it in the store, and acceptance of the mainstream user that having a machine that runs at warp factor -20 is an acceptable computer to have. So it's very sad, but as more and more people experience Linux, in how I've seen it, and certainly the people I've deployed Linux to, they would never ever go back to a Windows platform again.
Unless they're forced to. I know some people really like Linux, but in some cases in work they're forced to do so. And I should point out, because I have those abusive not sure trolls or stalkers or whatever, and they keep saying that I use Windows or that I used Windows, and it's absolutely not true. I never use Windows. I don't have to use Windows ever. And if they claim so, it's not true. And sometimes when I would put my hands on Windows, it's somebody else's machine that I try to persuade them to put something like Firefox on. And it's interesting because it's really striking how they respond to it, because they cannot tell the difference between a system memory and hard drive space. And they have this tendency, which perhaps is correct, to think that if you install another program on their PC, it will slow things down or impose a certain risk. So you say, why don't you install Chrome, even to just view awk? Today, I had to send a person an awk file, and I just said, okay, that'll be fine. If they install Chrome or Firefox, it should open up just fine with the browser, which it does. But this person doesn't have these browsers. He basically uses Internet Explorer, and I just thought, why don't you install different browsers? And you see, they're so afraid of putting something else because of the risk of being slowed down, which possibly would be true on Windows if they do that. And it gives this tendency for people to stay with what's coming from Microsoft if things slow down as they install more and more stuff. And I try to explain that I installed Linux for my family and things like that, and I tried to explain, no, you can install anything you want. It's not going to do any harm, and you can download things, and especially from the repo, you can just go there and just download any software you want. It's not going to cause conflicts because it's been tested for your distro. It's been built for your machine. And they slowly get to realize, oh, this is easy. I go here, and they say, well, IRC clients, and oh, look, I've got lots of them. I just tick the box, and it works. They don't actually have to know the name of the product they look for. They just look IRC and say, oh, well, whatever. You just choose all of them and just run them in series.
And then this is one of the many battles that we have, and also because there's no multi-million-pound marketing campaign behind Linux like there is on Microsoft products. And of course, if people aren't seeing Linux or associated wares on the television, which is where maybe a lot of the mainstream users will get their information from, then it doesn't exist. And maybe that's another thing that's been part of the hard battle, as it were, to educate people to see the benefits of Linux.
Were there any blue screens of death in today's wedding, or? That's an endorsement of sorts, isn't it?
I wasn't part of the audience watching that today, I'm afraid. I think it might have caught my eye for about 3 seconds as I walked through the living room, but that was about all. So I can't really comment. I don't know.
We get a day off.
But on
which if people watch the video, which hopefully some people will, if we manage to upload it successfully and everything else, they'll see you get a very interesting shirt. Maybe you would like to explain what the shirt says. So.
Yes, it was bought by my good lady wife, and it says, thanks for the day off. And it has the royal crest on the top, because as a result of the royal wedding and the happy couple, I get the day off today. So it means that my weekend is extended, and hence why we're having a show on a Friday night, which is a little bit unusual if I seem to recall. We normally record either Saturday or Sunday.
Well, actually, so, November, we did it every 2 days on average.
Yeah. But staying on lighter news, Roy, I've got a confession to make on the audio cast, because unfortunately, or fortunately, and I'm going to blame this on Fab from the Linux Outlaws, but unfortunately I've become addicted to Minecraft. I was watching his tweets for quite a long time, and he was always mentioning his package Minecraft. And for those that don't know, it's a game, and yes, it plays on Linux. It's a Java-based game. And I was reading these tweets, not paying a lot of attention, but eventually, after seeing about my 100th tweet on Minecraft, I thought I'm going to give this thing a go. And so, debit card in hand, I paid for a copy, which was a very reasonable €14, I believe. I'm not quite sure how much that works out in British currency. And I got myself a copy of Minecraft, and it's absolutely fantastic. So, whilst I've had quite a quiet week in terms of work, I've actually had a very busy work time during last week in terms of Minecraft. So I've been building houses, mining, and basically it's a game that requires you, it's a sandbox game that requires you to go around mining for minerals, building structures, and that's really it. The strange thing about it is there's no reason why it should be a good game. I can't put my finger on why it should be good at all. It should be very dull and very boring, and it should be one of those things which you look at for a couple of minutes and then switch off. The graphics aren't good, but for some reason it has some sort of charm, some magic, which will have you playing for hours. So my advice is, if you want a really good game, give it a try. It plays perfectly well in Linux, either separately or in your browser. And just be warned that you're going to waste a lot of time playing it. So that was my other little gem of information for the show. And Roy, have you got another?
Well, I spent a lot of my teenage years playing games. I try to not start to play them. It's very addictive. I tend to be very easily addicted to these games, especially when I improve. And once you improve, or you improve some status or something in the game, you want to carry on with that. And yes, I don't generally play games anymore.
The one good thing about it, and the one thing that is very good, is it's in an age where it seems that we're all moving towards this ultra-realistic violence inspired games. Minecraft is a very safe game, and it's a very pleasant game. It's cute and cuddly, and it's certainly not really violent. So yeah, it's a cracking little title. And to be fair, the story behind the developer is a real success story. I mean, it really is the story of a solo coder, or the little guy, making a lot of money by producing a very, very good product. So it's a story with a happy ending, as it were. And it just goes to show that you don't need to be a big development house or a large studio to produce quality works that a lot of people want to buy. And I think it also shows that when you do release a quality piece of work, people are willing to pay money for it and support it. So,
do you have any companies asserting patents over these virtual games? The reason I ask is I know that Second Life has been having an issue with things like, I think it was to do with copyright.